Welcome back to your Daily Dose. My name is Robert. We're here with Susan and Bradley and Indu. And Indu, we were talking about redefining the Parkinson's experience by listening to the person with Parkinson's and the caregiver's perspective. And Bradley just broke down the difference between depression and demoralization. What do you think about listening to people with Parkinson's and the care partners from a clinician standpoint? How does that affect and change where we'll go with treatment?
Yes, I mean, I think it is quite complex, right? And I think that, when you go through something that you weren't expecting and you hear news that's not pleasant, and somebody's giving it to you in a white coat in a sterile room, and you may be there by yourself, you hear the words and you take some things away that are really impactful. That can, many of the people that we've talked to living with Parkinson's, really talk about the day that that diagnosis was given and talk about, remembering things about it that were, the color of the sky and the clouds and the feeling of the air. And, 20 years later, that day is still resonating in their heads in some way. And I think that we can do better in giving that diagnosis with hope and trying to sort of, rather than saying, you have Parkinson's, come back in 6 months and here's a pill, which, sometimes that's all the time we have, when we're rushed and running around, or that may be the only thing that the person takes away. It may not be exactly what was said, but that was what was recalled. Perhaps, giving, a link or a book or, some group Parkinson's 101 class or some hope to sort of feel connected to something that's greater, and that there's something that you can do every day to help yourself in a different way than, just taking a pill, and that sort of sense of self-efficacy and self-agency. So really feeling, when people are really tested in times of trouble, when you feel like you as a person are sort of in control of your own destiny, that can really make a big difference. That's some of the work that, for example, Viktor Frankl, who's been very influential for me as a person, his philosophy of just, this sort of sense of agency, helping people to get through adversity, I think is so important. And I think, that's been spelled out in many other disease conditions, whether it's having a heart attack or breast cancer or whatever you might be dealing with. There's a different sort of philosophy that people leave that room with, right? That there's some sort of, package of things that they can do and some offerings that they can pick from. So we need to really bring that dialogue into, that first visit and give hope. And I think help people to connect with others that may be important for them. I think when people come in and they're alone, we need to say, who's important in your life, bring them in the next time. Let's talk with them as well. Let's see how we can help, support you and help keep you engaged socially so that you don't feel alone in this experience. And that person, that cheerleader, often is somebody to engage very much at the beginning. And that's part of this prescription, is to help people to understand the importance of that human connection. Other things that we've been talking about to help empower and educate people, really give them a sense of, what is this disease? What are the many components, including mental health, that we need to care about? And then also, what are the proactive lifestyle choices that they can choose? So if it's exercise, I believe exercise is medicine. I do believe that, social connection is part of the medicine. Mind-body approaches, including, things like yoga, breath work, mindfulness, can also help, some of these non-motor issues. And so can we give people things that they can kind of drizzle in to their daily lives? And perhaps, if something, is really not going well, mental health support, a psychologist or social worker that can kind of listen to them, other places where they can kind of feel supported. So I think, we're really proposing this, this sort of downward sort of, we have a figure where we have this sort of a balance of quality of life. And we talk about demoralization, intolerance of uncertainty, stigma, loneliness as the things that are negative from that are psychological challenges. And then some wellness strategies. So things that can improve self-efficacy, resilience, social support, improve psychological flexibility. And when Brad are writing papers, we always want to find ways that people can actually do something to change things. We don't want to just come up with 10 things that are wrong that there's nothing to do about. So really, some of the things that I mentioned, exercise, some of these mind-body strategies, social prescriptions of connecting to other people. These are things that can actually affect change in a positive way and help, improve that quality of life and help mitigate those negative things like demoralization that we talked about.
Just thinking of that blog. Here's 10 things that are wrong, and there's nothing you can do about them.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how awful that would be to read that blog?
If I may, Robert, that's
Yes.
one of the things that I think that I've learned from Indu that's been so critical in this process is not only finding a solution, but finding a practical solution, something that she can deliver to her patients in the clinic in 15 seconds, right? When we talk about meaning in life, how do we help someone find that? And Indu and I have talked about this and said, let's develop something that I can give here, because to send someone to CBT or ACT to go to another treatment for 12 weeks is a lot.
You want something practical, tangible, and immediate. And to your point, you'd have limited time as a clinician, and it's really important to understand the pressures are in that way. I think that speaks all the more reason why the conversation has to come back that way, to give more tools to the clinician that can fast track. Here are options that aren't just, like you said, a pill and a see you in 6 months, which is the typical what we hear from people based on their early diagnosis. It's like, wait a minute, what if this was an opportunity that said there are people who are not just living well, but thriving with Parkinson's, and we were able to give that in a digestible form, maybe even, God forbid, entertaining, be it a book, a movie, something that said, wait a minute, there's something I can latch onto. There's a story that says that could be me. I could open up to more. Yeah.
Well, Indu said it with Viktor Frankl, right? Flourishing despite suffering. That's his message all the way through.
Yes.
It's that no matter what we go through in life, we get to choose our attitude and how we deal with it, and we can address it. And many times this whole idea of post-traumatic growth that we didn't talk about in this paper, but that's another fascinating area, is that there are many people, once they've accepted and gotten to the point where they're okay with their diagnosis, they may report that they're better off now than they were pre-diagnosis. And that's a fascinating thing that takes place, right?
You hear
There's
that.
more there. Susan is an example in that regard. You didn't exercise at all before, really, before Parkinson's, right?
Nope, nope, nope.
And now?
Yeah, on the calendar 4 times a week, and then whatever else I do in between, dancing at home and stuff online.
It's great.
I want to come back for one more and wrap this, just because it's come up several times, Viktor Frankl's name, and Man's Search for Meaning is the most known book. It is, in fact, a big part of my dissertation, and is a part of this next program I'm going to do. So we're going to open up with that, our final episode for now, with this wonderful group. Oh, yes, Susan, yes.
Did you have 2 other points from their paper that you wanted to try to wrap?
We do. I'm just concerned about time. We're coming up to 11 o'clock. So, and now I've spoken in weird terms that nobody watching will understand. So we're going to cut for now. We'll be back with our final episode of Your Daily Dose of Dopamine.